After like 50 years, or more like 6 weeks, but it felt like 50 years, we are finally back and have our first UFC card of the year. Man, it's been ages, and this time we're no longer on ESPN, we're in Paramount. I don't know what that means, because regardless, we're gonna be pirating that shit, bro. We're on that illegal link, bro. Joking. We will buy Paramount, obviously, and support the fighters and stuff. But anyways, with a new card, you know what that means. It means we're gonna give our official predictions. We're gonna, explain who should win, who's gonna lose, who's gonna win. That's simple, I'm gonna give my objective analysis of the MMA game. You know me, I keep it real, I keep it sweet. And today we're gonna run through this card finally, and we're gonna see who wins and who loses, Into our first fight, man. Ty Miller versus Adam Fugit, a cheeky welterweight bout, cheeky 170-pound, fight. Nothing much to say about this fight. Ty Miller's undefeated. He's young. He's up and coming. Adam Fugit's old man, bro. Old man. He's like 37 years old. He's lucky being fed to killers. This guy. He's been put against Michael Morales. He just got put against Islam Dulatov. Man, it's like the UFC just keeps feeding him to young up and coming contenders. He's in his retirement age. He's just getting beat up, just to get the paychecks. So we already know what's gonna happen. Ty Miller's just gonna whoop him. Probably, I don't see him getting a finish, but probably will be a dominant, one-sided decision. On to the next fight, man. And our next fight is Ricky, good old Ricky Tacios, versus big old Cam, bro. He's got some big legs, bro. Listen, I don't have much to say about this fight except that this Ricky guy lost to Chiwiwis, bro. You're gonna really lose to Meep Chiwiwis, bro? Listen, if you losing to Raul Rosas Jr., bro, you don't even deserve to be on the roster, man, and you deserve to lose again. I got big old Cam by decision. Yes, I call him Cam. Yes, we are close. Next fight, Hokit versus Denzel. This is a pretty evenly, faced sort of fight. It's hard to separate these guys. It's just two big fat heavyweights. I think both of them on 2-fight win streaks as well. Both very similar records, similar builds. Denzel, bigger reach advantage. I don't know how much that matters in heavyweight fights, but I don't think too much. Honestly, bro, I barely know anything about these guys. I can't lie, bro. I'm a filthy casual for not knowing Josh Hokit and Denzel Freeman. I'm a fucking casual, but who do I think will win? I just think the big black guy will win. So, guys, if you want your money, bet on Mr. Denzel Freeman, bro, for sure. The big black guy. They always win. Now into the next fight, bro. This is actually an interesting fight, bro. Michael Johnson versus Alexander, Hernandez. Man, I don't know how I feel about this fight. Firstly, we got the very, very crafty vet. Extremely fucking crafty vet. Michael Johnson. Right? So, let's keep it real. This guy's on another level. Right? He's beat Poirier. Beat Ferg, I think, before he went in that 12-fight win streak. Beat Ferguson. Beat Tibau, bro. Gleison Tibau, bro. He's juiced to the gills. Johnson beat his ass, bro. He's beat, Barboza too. So the thing about Michael Johnson is he can get it done against people who are just better than him, and he just gets it done for no reason. I know these are some old wins that I'm listing, but still, he's still crafty, bro. He's like 39 now. I didn't know too much about Alexander Hernandez winning this one, man. I don't know if I trusted too much. He is on a 4-fight win streak. I think Michael Johnson is on a 2-fight win streak. But listen, bro, I trust that Michael Johnson can continue this momentum, bro. I know he's 39. I know Hernandez is much younger. He's 33, which is still pretty old for the lightweight division. I mean, not too old, but I don't know. I think, listen, I think 2026 is the year of the crafty vet, guys. You know, every MMA year has that sort of era. I think last year was a bit of an up-and-coming era for the prospects, man. I feel like this year's the year of the crafty vet. Michael Johnson's going to show the world, man. He's going to show the world how crafty vets do it, bro. And he's going to go out there. I think he's going to outpoint him. I think he's going to outpoint Alexander Hernandez to just a boring-ass decision. Just a really boring decision. He'll just get it done tit for tat, you know. On to our next fight. This is a sort of interesting fight, man. Guys, let's keep it real. UFC 324 is fucking stacked, bro. I know the main event is kind of poos, and I'll get into that later, but like for a card, you know, first card of the year, this is exciting fights. Like, we're getting a lot of good quality fights in this card, which is just something to be excited about, you know. And you know, this is a low ranking flyweight fight, but still, this is a good fight. We have, you know, two pretty decent guys going against each other. One of these guys is technically the champ. Yes, you heard it, Charles Johnson. People forget. He beat the brakes of Joshua Van, bro. He beat his ass, bro. So, you know, Pantoja couldn't even do that. So we might be looking at a future. Nah, I'm joking, but still, bro, you know, beating Joshua Van like that, very impressive. What else has he done since then? Not much. But listen, he beat Joshua. He beat the champ, bro. You know, Alex Perez is on a 2 losing streak, and Charles, you know, Johnson, 5 out of his last 6 fights have been wins. So I just think by the clear momentum, I just think he'll get it done. He might get a sub, but it probably will be a decision. But regardless, I think Charles Johnson, he wins this fight, you know, and he eventually, you know, rematches Joshua Van, knocks him out, then knocks out Pantoja, then knocks out the rest of the flyweight, then knocks out everyone in bantamweight. Okay, let's carry on. Big old Nikki, bro. Nikki and Modestus Bukoskos. Is that the accent, bro? Bukoskos. Listen, Nikita Krylov, I can't remember what he's done recently except getting knocked out by Reyes, which isn't a good look, bro. Getting knocked out by old man Reyes. I don't care if people were saying this guy was on a comeback tour. Man, that's old man Reyes. You're getting knocked out by him. Listen, and then the other guy, he's on a 4-fight win streak versus a 2-fight losing streak. Once again, I think, you know, momentum matters a lot in this sport. They are very similar size, though. There's nothing really separating them in terms of physicality. And I just don't know if Nikita Krylov is as good as people make him out to be, you know? I think Modestus is on his way up, and Krylov is just on his way down. And I do think this will be probably ending in a finish. These are pretty big guys, and I do think Modestus will get this done. So that's my official pick. Tabor Gautier versus Andre Pulayev. Man, this is a very good fight, is what no one ever said. Listen, Gautier is an amazing prospect. This guy's the middleweight Ngannou. He's fucking huge for middleweight. He's absolutely massive. He's jacked, and he's got insane power. But I just don't understand why the UFC keeps feeding him cans, bro. Like, you gotta let this guy move up the division at some point. Let him, like, fight some actual decent competitors so we can see how good he really is. Unfortunately, you know, this isn't the case. In this fight, once again, they just giving him another bomb. Don't know why, bro. And Gautier is only 23, bro. This guy could become a champ in the next few years if you just give him the right opponents, you know. He's insane, bro. Absolutely insane. This fight, I don't think it's gonna be too different from Gautier's other fights in the UFC. I think he's just gonna go out there and he's just gonna, kill Pulayev, bro. I just don't see anything else happening, and I don't think anyone does too. I think that's just the obvious pick. The UFC just needs to give him someone who will actually be interesting enough and skilled enough to give him a sort of hard time. Next fight, big old Umar versus Figgy. Guys, I gotta keep it real. If Figueiredo somehow wins this fight, I will get on a YouTube live stream and I will start shaking my ass, bro. That's how confident I am. That, that will not happen, bro. Figgy is not winning this under any circumstances, bro. There's just no way he does. There's nothing. He has no parts to victory. And if he does win, I'll also tattoo his face on my butt. But, all jokes aside, holy, bro. Guys, do you see the hair? Holy hair. Am I balding? Chat, I think I'm balding. I'm nearly as bald as these two fellas over here. But anyway, this is light work for Umar, bro. Figueiredo hasn't done nothing in the bantamweight division outside his 3-fight win streak, which was a pretty impressive win streak. But since then, outpointed by Jan. I got that bad injury against Sandhagen. Unfortunate, but he still probably would have lost. And his last fight was just a crappy, boring, split decision. I mean, he did clearly win that, in my opinion, but still, man, it's like it wasn't a good showcase, and he's only getting older, and Umar's only so much younger. Listen, hot take, Umar is still the best fighter in the bantamweight division. Best. By best, I mean, like, he beats everyone else in the bantamweight division. I don't care what people say. Listen, Jan got 50-45 against Merab with a broken hand. Umar had a broken wrist and still nearly took 3 rounds off of him. That's levels, bro. A healthy Umar beats the brakes off Merab and Jan. I said it here first, bro. And this is interesting as well. This fight is like a top of the prelims, bro. Because this is low-key a number 1 contenders fight for the bantamweight belt. I know they 100% will just rebook the trilogy for Jan and Merab, but I think whoever wins this probably gets, the winner. So, yeah, I do think Umar will get this done by decision. But, of course, Figgy can always land like, a big, meaty overhand and catch Umar. But I trust Umar enough, bro, to know that will not happen. And if it does happen, Umar has very good recovery skills, as we saw against Bautista. Like, when he is in trouble, he does stink. He doesn't get too wild. He calms himself down. I think this would, just be a clinic from Umar. I don't see it getting too bloody, but I do see him, just outpointing him and just getting a few takedowns here and there and just, getting an easy 30-27 on Figgy. On to the next fight. Once again, this card showing why it's so good. We got... Do you guys like it when I drink water like that? Does that turn you on? But anyway, we got Gene Silva versus Arnold Allen. This is actually a very interesting fight. And I think it's interesting because we really get to see just how mentally tough Gene Silva is. Firstly, let's just talk about Arnold Allen, right? So, this guy only has 2 losses in the UFC, to Mosvar and Holloway. Outside of that, he hasn't really lost to anyone else. He's only lost to the real best contenders in the division. Arnold Allen is truly an elite fighter. But regardless, Gene Silva, he's just too good, bro. And I know he lost to Diego Silva, but I feel like that fight was just a fluke, and I feel like he just beats him 9 times out of 10, bro. Gene Silva is a monster, bro. He's got KO power. He's got, very tricky submission game. He's just very physically strong and imposing for the featherweight division. As I said before, there's only one thing which could limit him in this fight, and it's to see, will he bounce back from that loss? Is he one of those fighters after a loss where they, sulk a bit and they go on a bit of a downwards trajectory, and they feel sorry for themselves and they're never quite the same again after getting, such a big loss like that? Or will he, raise himself up, get rid of that bad mental state, from his last fight, get rid of that ego and just focus on being the best version of himself? If Gene Silva is locked in, there's nothing in the planet that can stop him from becoming featherweight champ. And I would even have him, beating Volkanovski. But, as I said, if he locks in, he probably will finish Arnold Allen. Probably a TKO. Just beating him up against the fence. Probably will be a bad beating. I still think he's a future champ, bro. He's just too skilled not to be, too physically imposing not to be. Now into the next fight. Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas, bro. I think I'm buffering right now. Am I done buffering? Hopefully I'm done buffering. Yo, come on, MacBook, bro, you can't let me down. Hey, sorry for the viewers. Technical difficulties, get used to it. We out here in poverty, we're grinding up to be the greatest channel in the history of this, platform, bro. But regardless, bro. What a fight. We've all been waiting for Natalia Silva and Rose Namajunas. No one gives a fuck about women's fights, bro. Can I just say for the record that we don't actually care, bro? I'm sick of acting like anyone actually sits down and watches this shit, bro. I don't give a fuck. Big old Where's Waldo and Derek Lewis. Now that's a fight that people want to see, right? Who do I think will win? Well, this is where it gets weird, guys, because how is this the hardest fight to call on the entire card? And I'm not even joking when I say that, because either of these guys could just knock the lights out of the other. Like, this fight will probably end in a finish. But as I said, guys, 2026 is the year of the crafty vet. I think Lewis is just going to find an opening. Costa can get kind of wild. And, even when he's backed up against the fence, he can just swing like a madman. So I just think Derek Lewis, crafty vet, he's just gonna get out there, find one opening, and bang, the fight's over. But, where's Waldo? He does sometimes have stink fests. I remember his fight against Pavlovich was pretty fucking shit. And I think if this fight doesn't end in the first round with one of them, being laid out cold, this will probably be a very slow, stinky, boring fight. But, we're on the Derek Lewis hype train. It's the year of the crafty vet, guys. So we know Derek Lewis is going to win. It's just how it is. 2026, we just know how it is, bro. Co-main event. Now, this is an actual interesting fight. We have an actual fight, right? Instead of Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison. No one cared about. I don't care if Amanda Nunes is the GOAT of women's MMA. I can't remember the last time I unironically watched a women's MMA fight. I actually don't care. I know I said that before, but I don't care. I just had to say that again, just get my opinion out there, because I know no one else cares. Everyone else is just, too scared to say it. But on to Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong, mate. Song Yadong, dong. Listen, Sean O'Malley, in terms of pure striking, is the second best in bantamweight behind Petr Yan. And that's a fact, right? This guy, I know people are sort of forgetting who he is because he lost to Marab twice, acting like losing to Marab is some sort of unforgivable thing, which it isn't. It's Marab. But this guy, he's got power in both his hands. He's an excellent kickboxer. Him being a southpaw makes it kind of tricky. I think, O'Malley's just got all the skills, bro. He's just genuinely got all the skills to make this a hard fight for Song Yadong. But just like Gene Silva, it also depends. Is Sean O'Malley still hungry? He had those two big back-to-back losses against Marab, the two biggest fights of his career, and he's now low-key out of the title picture, right? He's, maybe 2-3 fights away from, getting back into title contention, to get a title shot. Will this, impact him in any way? It very well could, and that could very well, be how he loses this fight. He might just not be that locked in. He might not be giving a shit. Might be coming into this a bit lax, not really feeling anything to prove. Like he's already done. He's already, pretty popular, got a decent amount of money. That could be how it ends, and he could just come into this fight, pretty lazy, and not give a fuck. But I think if he does come into this fight with a, kill or be killed mentality, as he should, then it's kind of over for Song Yadong. I mean, Song Yadong's never really beat anyone good. People don't, really talk about this. Who is his best win? Like a washed up Cejudo, who he had a shitty eye poke against? That's his best win? Everyone elite who Song Yadong has faced, he's lost to. And I think if Sean O'Malley locks in, it's going to be a one-sided beatdown, and I think it will end up in a TKO for Sean O'Malley. I just think that's how it will go, I think he's just going to, constantly, teep off on Song Yadong. Just keep pitter-pattering him. Eventually the power will be too much, and then Song Yadong will just crumble. And now, onto the main event, which it just doesn't feel like a main event. I know these guys are two big stars, like Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett. Like, this is a very, by itself, this is a great fight. Like, if this was the co-main event to a title fight, everyone would be hype as fuck, right? But the fact that, this is the interim title shot for arguably, one of the most historically, big divisions in the entire sport of MMA, it just feels so lackluster, bro. Like, it's a great fun fight. This will probably be super entertaining. But what's the point of an interim title shot if it doesn't include the best fighter in the division, excluding the champion? Like, if there's no Arman in this, then who cares, bro? Like, what's the point? It feels like a fake sort of lollygag, belt, like a BMF belt. It's basically the same, right? Because the actual best contender in the division isn't fighting for this. But aside from that, I know they are big stars, both of these guys, right? Like, they're pretty, popular fan favorites. It will pull in money for the company, but still, bro, it's just such a stupid fight to make. But aside from that, listen, Paddy Pimblett is overrated as fuck, bro. This guy is not just overrated, he's low-key kind of shit. Like, I'm saying that here right now. He's kind of shit. And I will make another YouTube video on this just to talk about how shit Paddy Pimblett is, because he really is just a horrible fighter. He's not really good at anything at all, except maybe jiu-jitsu. But that's it. Listen, here's what's going to happen in this fight. Gaethje will just beat the brakes off Paddy Pimblett, bro. I hate this narrative that Gaethje is washed up and finished. He's like, this guy is still absolutely tough as bricks. And I think, listen, Paddy, he's just not going to have a way to impose his will on Gaethje. Listen, Paddy might be good in the ground, but how is he going to get the fight to the ground? With what? His zero wrestling? His non-existent wrestling? Gaethje has versed wrestlers 100 times and grapplers 100 times better than Paddy Pimblett. Like Oliveira and Habib. And you're telling me this guy, Paddy Pimblett's going to take him down? Paddy Pimblett is not taking him down, bro. Justin is not washed. We act like just because he got starched out by Holloway being, arguably one of the goats of the sport, an absolutely elite fighter, lighter man skill too. We're acting like, since that fight happened, that he's now just absolutely done with his career. That's the stupidest shit ever. I know Justin Gaethje is 37. Paddy Pimblett is 31. Why are we acting like he's some sort of young guy? He's not too he's not too young himself either. And the last three, not the last three, sorry, but three out of Justin Gaethje's last 4 fights are wins for him. Like, are we forgetting he literally knocked out Poirier cold? Head kick KO cold? Not even Holloway could do that, right? Like, Holloway got dropped by Poirier. Gaethje went out there and knocked him out. Probably a way better version of Poirier, a less aged version. Gaethje could have gotten the title shot off of that, He could have sat around, waited for the title shot, but then took the fight against Holloway. And that's why now we have this stupid narrative of him being washed. But he's not washed, bro. And he's going to show that, against Paddy Pimblett, that he does have that power still. He is very tough. He still has actually very underrated takedown defense. Paddy Pimblett will not get him down on the ground. And because of that, I think it will be a largely stand-up fight, and Gaethje is just gonna beat his ass. That's simple. Paddy's not gonna really get anything good out of this. He might try to make it dirty, depending on his chin, but Paddy Pimblett's chin is horrible. He can't rely on his chin like he think he probably will be able to. Because who has his chin been tested against? What, old man Chandler, old man Ferguson? Paddy's never faced an actual good opponent, and Justin Gaethje is his first ever actually good opponent, and I just think, man, he's just gonna kill him. It's just not gonna be close, If the fight doesn't get in the ground, and as I said, it won't, Gaethje is just gonna beat him to a pulp. There's just no, sort of path to victory for Paddy Pimblett in this fight. And I think that this will go against quite a lot of maybe what people are thinking, but I think it will be a one-sided beatdown for Justin Gaethje. And I do see Paddy's chin still holding up for a bit, but I do eventually see it fading over the fight, and I do see Gaethje getting like a late TKO, maybe in the 4th round, maybe in the 5th round, after dominating Pimblett for a bit. But yeah, man, who even cares about this fight though? Because what's gonna happen? They get the interim belt, they verse Ilya, and then what? They just get killed anyway. So this fight just feels so nonsensical. Like, if this was a fight with Arman in it, then we could be happy, right? Because we could finally see Arman versus Ilya, the best versus the best in the division. But regardless of who wins this fight, they will just be fed to Ilya, and they will just die. But anyway, guys, those are my official predictions for UFC 324. We finally have a UFC event. I'm hella excited. Please subscribe. More videos will be coming soon. My next video will definitely be on exposing Paddy Pimblett for being just the biggest fraud in UFC history. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.